The text came at 2:17 a.m. For simple words that would change two lives forever, it hurts so much. David Miller stared at his phone, knowing the message wasn't meant for him but unable to ignore the raw pain behind those words. What happened next would break him completely, and give a stranger the family she never knew she needed. Before we dive into this incredible true story, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more life-changing stories that remind us how unexpected connections can heal even our deepest wounds. David hadn't slept properly in 3 years, not since his wife Sarah's car accident left him a widower with a newborn daughter. The night shift at the hospital was his salvation. It kept his mind occupied during those dark hours when memories haunted him most. His mother-in-law watched little Emma while he worked, a routine that had become their normal. It wasn't perfect, but they were surviving. He just finished his rounds when his phone buzzed. The number wasn't saved in his contacts, and the message was clearly not meant for him. It hurts so much. His first instinct was to ignore it. Wrong numbers happened all the time. But something about those 4 words tugged at him. As a nurse, he was trained to respond to pain. "I think you have the wrong number," he typed back. "But are you okay?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, "No. I'm not. I'm sorry to bother you." David hesitated. His shift was ending in 20 minutes. He should go home, get some sleep before Emma woke up. But the rawness in those simple words reminded him of his own darkest moments after Sarah died. "You're not bothering me," he wrote. "Do you need help?" The response came quickly, "Nobody can help. I've tried everything." A chill ran through him. He'd heard similar words from patients in the psychiatric ward. "Are you safe right now?" he asked directly. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. "I don't know." David made a decision that would alter the course of 2 lives. "I'm a nurse. I can listen if you want to talk. No judgment." Her name was Melissa. She was 28, and she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 6 months earlier. The text was meant for her sister, who lived across the country. The pain wasn't just physical. It was the crushing loneliness of fighting a battle that seemed already lost. Her friends had slowly disappeared, unable to handle the reality of her illness. Her parents had died years ago. Her sister tried, but had 3 young children and lived too far away to help regularly. "The worst part isn't dying," she wrote. "It's dying alone." David sat in his car long after his shift ended, typing messages to this stranger who somehow didn't feel like a stranger anymore. When he finally drove home, the sky was beginning to lighten. He should have been exhausted, but his mind was racing. He couldn't stop thinking about Melissa, alone in her apartment, in pain both physical and emotional. The next night, he sent a message, "How are you feeling today?" She seemed surprised he'd checked in. "Better than yesterday. The new meds help a little." Their conversations became a nightly ritual. David would finish his shift and text Melissa. Sometimes they talked about her treatment. Sometimes about books or movies or memories from before her diagnosis. Sometimes about Emma, who was starting to form sentences and had her mother's eyes. "I wish I could meet her," Melissa wrote one night. "She sounds perfect." 3 weeks after that first text, Melissa had a particularly bad night. Her pain medication wasn't working, and she couldn't reach her doctor. David was off work that evening, but he couldn't ignore her distress. "I can come check on you," he offered, surprising himself. "I'm a nurse, remember? I might be able to help." There was a long pause before her response, "I don't want you to see me like this. I see sick people every day," he wrote back. "It's literally my job." "But we're friends now," she replied. "It's different." David thought about Sarah, about how she'd looked in her final moments. About dignity and friendship and what it meant to truly care for someone. "Friends help each other," he typed. "Let me help." Melissa finally sent her address. It was only 15 minutes from his house. David asked his mother-in-law to stay a little longer with Emma and drove through the quiet streets, wondering what he was doing, going to a stranger's apartment in the middle of the night. But Melissa wasn't really a stranger anymore, was she? Her apartment building was old but well-maintained. She buzzed him in, and he climbed to the third floor. When she opened the door, he was struck by how young she looked despite the illness that had clearly ravaged her body. Her head was wrapped in a colorful scarf, her frame thin, but her eyes, they were alive with a fierce intelligence and something else. Relief, perhaps. Or simply the comfort of human connection. "I can't believe you actually came," she said, her voice stronger than he'd imagined from their texts. "I said I would," he replied simply. That night broke David in ways he hadn't expected. Not because of Melissa's illness, he'd seen worse in his years of nursing, but because of her resilience. Her apartment was filled with paintings she'd created during treatment. Books stacked everywhere. A half-finished manuscript on her laptop. She was dying, yes, but she was also living with an intensity that made his own existence seem hollow by comparison. He helped adjust her medication, made her tea, and listened as she talked about the novel she was trying to finish before time ran out. When he finally left, the sun was rising. "Thank you," she texted after he got home. "For seeing me and not just my cancer." Something shifted in David that night. For 3 years, he'd been going through the motions, caring for Emma, working his shifts, but not truly living. Melissa, with so little time left, was somehow more alive than he was. The next day, he did something he hadn't done since Sarah died. He called his boss and asked for a schedule change. He wanted day shifts. He wanted to be awake when Emma was awake. He wanted to take her to the park and read her stories and hear her laugh. And he wanted to visit Melissa again. What began as a wrong text message evolved into an unexpected friendship that defied conventional boundaries. David started bringing Emma to visit Melissa on his days off. The little girl was shy at first, but soon took to sitting on Melissa's lap while they read stories together. Melissa taught Emma to hold a paintbrush, creating colorful messes that David proudly displayed on his refrigerator. "She needs a woman in her life," Melissa told him one afternoon as they watched Emma nap on the couch. "Someone to teach her things I bet Sarah would have taught her." David felt the familiar ache whenever Sarah's name was mentioned, but it was softer now. Like what? Like how to braid hair. How to stand up for herself. How to recognize when a boy actually likes her versus when he's just being annoying. David laughed. "She's only 3. But she won't always be," Melissa said softly. "Time moves faster than you think. She would know. The doctors had given her 6 months. She'd already survived 8. As summer turned to fall, Melissa's good days became fewer. David found himself stopping by her apartment almost daily, bringing groceries, helping with medications, or simply sitting with her while she slept. Emma would color quietly or play with the special toys Melissa kept for her visits. One evening, as David was preparing to leave, Melissa caught his hand. "I need to ask you something important." Her eyes were serious, and David felt a flutter of anxiety. "Anything?" "I've been working on something for Emma. A series of letters and videos for her to open at different ages. Things I wish someone had told me. Advice. Stories. Just, woman stuff." She paused, gathering strength. "Will you give them to her when the time comes?" David felt his throat tighten. "Of course. But we both know I'm not getting better, David." Her voice was gentle but firm. "I've accepted it. But meeting you and Emma, it's like I got to experience a little piece of what motherhood might have been like. I want to give her something back." That night, after tucking Emma into bed, David sat alone in his kitchen and wept for the first time in months. Not just for Sarah, or for Melissa, but for all the moments of connection he'd denied himself while drowning in grief. Melissa, with so little time left, had somehow taught him how to live again. The hospital called on a Tuesday morning in late October. Melissa had been admitted during the night. By the time David arrived, she was drifting in and out of consciousness. He sat beside her bed, holding her hand, telling her about Emma's Halloween costume and the pumpkins they'd carved the previous weekend. "She's going to be a doctor," he said, smiling through tears. "Not a nurse like her dad. She says doctors get to be the boss." Melissa's lips curved slightly. "Smart girl." David stayed until his shift started, then returned immediately after. The night nurse told him Melissa had asked for him several times. When he entered her room, her eyes were closed, but she seemed to sense his presence. "You came back," she murmured without opening her eyes. "I promised I would." She squeezed his hand weakly. "The letters for Emma are in the blue box in my closet. The password to my computer is her birthday." "Melissa. Let me finish." Her voice was barely audible now. "Thank you for answering that text. Thank you for seeing me. For letting me be part of your family, even for a little while." David leaned closer. "You are family. To both of us." She smiled then, a real smile that momentarily erased the pain from her face. "I think I was supposed to text you that night. Some mistakes aren't mistakes at all." Melissa passed away peacefully in the early hours of the morning, with David still holding her hand. The hospital staff, many of whom were David's colleagues, gave him privacy to say goodbye. He sat with her for a long time, thinking about the strange twist of fate that had brought her into their lives through 4 simple words: "It hurts so much." The blue box contained dozens of sealed envelopes, each labeled with an age or occasion: Emma's first day of kindergarten, Emma's first heartbreak, Emma's high school graduation, Emma's wedding day. There were also USB drives with video messages, books Melissa wanted Emma to read at certain ages, and a handmade quilt with patches representing different life lessons. The last envelope was addressed to David. Inside was a letter that would change him forever. "Dear David. If you're reading this, I've finally run out of time. Please don't be sad for me. These last few months with you and Emma have been the most meaningful of my life. Before that wrong text, I was just waiting to die. You gave me something to live for, I've never believed much in fate or divine intervention, but I can't help wondering if something larger than ourselves brought us together that night. You needed someone to help you remember how to live. I needed someone to make my remaining time matter, I want you to know that it's okay to be happy again. Sarah would want that for you and Emma. Maybe someday you'll find someone to love, someone who will love Emma as her own. When that happens, please share these letters with her too. Let her know that for a brief time, I got to pretend I was Emma's second mom, and it was the greatest gift I could have received, Remember what I told you that first night you came to my apartment? The worst part isn't dying, it's dying alone. Thanks to you and Emma, I didn't have to, All my love. Melissa. 5 years later, David stood in Emma's bedroom doorway, watching as his now 8-year-old daughter carefully opened the envelope marked Emma's first day of 3rd grade. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small watercolor painting of a little girl with butterfly wings. "What does it say?" David asked softly. Emma read aloud, "Dear Emma, today you're starting 3rd grade. I was so scared on my first day of 3rd grade that I hid in the bathroom during lunch. But then a girl named Lily found me and shared her cookies with me. We became best friends for years after that. Sometimes the scariest days turn into the most important ones. Be brave, but also be kind. Look for the kids sitting alone. You might change their whole day, or even their life. Love, your friend Melissa." Emma traced the painting with her finger. "I wish I remembered her better." David sat beside her on the bed. That's why she left you these letters and videos. So you could know her even though she couldn't stay. Do you think she can see us from heaven? Emma asked. David thought about it. I think people we love never really leave us. They become part of who we are. Emma carefully returned the letter to its envelope and placed it in the blue box with the others she'd opened on previous occasions. I'm going to look for someone sitting alone today, she decided. Just like Melissa said. As they drove to school, David thought about how profoundly one wrong text message had altered their lives. Melissa had been gone for 5 years, but her influence remained, in Emma's compassion for others, in the blue box of letters that continued to guide her, and in David's own heart, which had finally healed enough to love again. He glanced at the engagement ring box hidden in his desk drawer at home. Jessica, the art therapist he'd met at a grief support group 2 years ago, had already become an important part of their lives. She understood about Sarah and about Melissa. She helped Emma open Melissa's letters on special days and never tried to replace either woman in their memories. Life moved in unexpected circles. Pain connected to healing, connected to new beginnings. A text meant for someone else had created a bond that transcended even death. That night, after Emma was asleep, David sat on the porch swing and looked up at the stars. She looked for the kid sitting alone today, he said softly to the night sky. She found a new boy who just moved here from another country. Invited him to play at recess. That's all you, Melissa. The night was quiet, but David felt a sense of peace wash over him. Some connections, he had learned, were meant to be, even when they began with a mistake and 4 simple words, "It hurts so much." If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as wrong numbers, chance encounters, or even painful moments. The connections we make, however brief, can change us forever.